needless to add that he won the Railways Award for it and put all of us under immense pressure from that moment onwards to live up to these expectations. Fondly called as the father of project management in India, inspiration to millions of people in India, primarily to all of these people who share the profession with him, project managers, all of us. Man who has executed extremely complex geographical projects like the Konkan Railway and Delhi Metro. I'm sure there are millions of people in Delhi every day who use the metro and thank him for building it with the rates of petrol are going up. It's my honor to invite to speak to us all the person who won the TOI Man of the Year Award in 2002, the Asia's Heroes Award from Time Magazine in 2003, Knight of the Legion of Honor from the Government of France in 2005, Padma Shri in 2001, Padma Vibhushan Shri Dr. E. Sridharan. Sir.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I must thank Karthik Ramamurthy and Raj Khalidi for getting me over here this morning and to speak to this very enlightened audience present. I feel particularly honored to see Dr. Ramchandran, a very valued colleague of mine who was heading the Urban Development Ministry as Secretary earlier when I was Managing Director, Delhi Metro Rail Corporation, present here. Well, I must confess before you that I'm not really a big management expert. I have not been to any management schools as such, nor have I read any classical management texts also. But I had the opportunity to handle some very important infrastructure projects in the country, and I thought I would share with you my experience in handling these projects and the lessons that will be very relevant to all of you here. And in that context, two projects which I had handled in the last few years, I want to mention to you. These two projects are the Konkan Railway and the Delhi Metro. Konkan Railway, as you are all aware, is a 760-kilometer long broad gauge railway line connecting Mumbai to Mangalore along the west coast of the country. This line passes through one of the most difficult terrains ever encountered in the history of railway construction in this country, which will be evident to you when I mention that for constructing this 760-kilometer long line, as many as 93 tunnels had to be bored through over a length of 82.5 kilometers. The longest tunnel on this line being about 6.5 kilometers near Ratnagiri. And there are 9 tunnels more than 3 kilometers in length. There are 147 major bridges on this route. The longest bridge is across Sharavdi near Karwar, more than 2 kilometers in length, the bridge itself. And the highest viaduct on this line near Ratnagiri, across Panvel Viaduct, that is the Panvel Viaduct, whose piers are as tall as Qutub Minar, nearly 68 meters high. There are very deep cuttings, more than 30 meters in depth, There are high embankments. There is one particular embankment which is 25-meter high for a length of about 2.5 kilometers. From these descriptions, you can find what a difficult terrain it was to construct a railway line, which I was able to complete in a period of 7 years' time. The whole project was done in 7 years' time. But the most challenging job on this railway project was not the technical hurdles facing the project, but raising the funds for the project. That was the biggest challenge. That was the first time the railways decided that a railway line should be constructed with borrowed money. The railway was prepared to give only 1/3 of the cost of the project, and two-thirds of the cost had to be raised from the market for executing this project on a BOT basis, build, operate, and transfer basis. And we all started very well, borrowing money from the market. And soon, the capital markets went into a topsy-turvy condition following the Harshad Mehta scam. You must have all heard about it. And it was almost impossible to raise money from the market. With all this, the project was completed in 7 years' time. The other project, Delhi Metro, is a slightly different story. There was no problem for finance at all because bulk of the money was coming from Japan as a soft loan. About almost 60% of the cost of the project was coming from Japan, and the remaining was being borne by the two governments, Delhi government and the government of India, on equal proportion. So finance was not a problem for Delhi Metro. But the problem in Delhi Metro was the technical complexity of the project. That was the first time a modern metro was being planned and executed in the country. The country had done a metro earlier in Calcutta, all of you may be aware. A small 17-kilometer long metro line was started in the early 70s. But it was a very unpleasant experience for the whole country, the Calcutta Metro, the first line, because the 17-kilometer line took 22 years for completion, and the cost went up by 14 times. So with this experience, it was decided that Delhi Metro would be done in an entirely different style and fashion, for which a new special purpose vehicle was created, that is Delhi Metro Rail Corporation. And I had the privilege of being the first managing director of this outfit. And work on this Delhi Metro was started in October 1998. The first phase of the metro covers a length of 65 kilometers at a cost of about 10,500 crores. And when the project was handed over to DMRC, Delhi Metro Rail Corporation means DMRC, the mandate from the government was to complete the project in a period of 10 years. I'm very happy to inform you that we were able to complete the first phase of the project in 7 years and 3 months, almost 2 years and 9 months ahead of schedule. And immediately this was followed by the second phase of Delhi Metro project. The second phase covers 124 kilometers at a cost of 24,000 crores, which was to be done in 5 years' time. But then the compulsion of hosting the Commonwealth Games in October 2010 gave us only just 4.5 years to complete this project, this 124-kilometer line of Delhi Metro project. And we were able to complete the Delhi Metro second phase exactly a few hours before the Commonwealth Games were started. You'll be surprised to know that. Just a few hours, the line was completed. And I must share with you, completing 124 kilometers of metro line in a period of 4.5 years is a world record. This country was able to establish a world record. Now, the third phase of Delhi Metro started, which covers almost 140 kilometers at a cost of at a cost of 35,000 crores, and the work is going on. Today, Delhi can boast of a world-class metro covering 190 kilometers, and it is carrying 22 lakh passengers a day. You can just imagine carrying 22 lakh passengers taking away from the roads meant almost 1 lakh vehicles off the road. What a relief on the road because of the metro system. Delhi Metro today operates almost 3,000 train trips a day. And it carries these passengers in absolute comfort, with reliable service, and very punctually. The trains are very, very punctual. The punctuality performance of Delhi Metro is something fantastic, which, I don't think any other metro in the world has been able to achieve this level of punctuality in their working. I'll tell you how we were able to achieve this punctuality performance in Delhi Metro. Now, these two major projects, Delhi Metro as well as Konkan Railway, they're all government projects being executed by government agencies. The Delhi Metro Rail Corporation is a government agency, the two governments owning the company. The Konkan Railway was a public sector undertaking under the Ministry of Railways. Naturally, the two organizations had to follow all the governmental rules and procedures. We were also under the purview of the normal governmental watchdogs, like the CNAG, the Controller and Auditor General of India, the CVC, the Chief Vigilance Commissioner, and first the parliamentary committees. The members of the parliamentary committees, how nasty they can be. We were all under the stare and under the purview of these three bodies. You may ask me a question, how working under the government rules, as a government outfit, how we were able to achieve this remarkable completing the projects on time and completing the projects within the sanctioned estimate. How was it possible to achieve? This is one thing I would like to share with you. This was mainly because of a very unique work culture that we were able to bring in and nurture in these two organizations. This was mainly because of that. And the main pillars of the work culture I would like to share with you very, very briefly because I don't have much time. They are basically punctuality, integrity, professional competence, and a sense of social responsibility or social accountability. These are the four major pillars of this work culture. When I mention punctuality, these two projects essentially are meant to run trains. And we realize that unless we are punctual, we can't expect our trains to be punctual. This realization came right from the beginning. And punctuality was being performed almost to a perfection in the two organizations. Not 1 minute late or not 1 minute early. And see what is the fallout of this work culture that has been developed. Delhi Metro, as I told you, 3,000 trains are being run. And world over, the least count for punctuality is about 3 minutes for trains. If a train is late by more than 3 minutes, then only it is deemed to have lost punctuality. Delhi Metro, we decided that this punctuality, we should tighten this. We should have much stricter discipline. And the punctuality was reckoned as 60 seconds. If a train is late by more than 60 seconds, it will have lost punctuality. And I'm very happy to share with you that the punctuality performance of Delhi Metro generally is of the order of 99.6, 99.7%. This is the value of punctuality. And punctuality is also equally important for project management because we have to finish projects on time. We used to have a system in Delhi Metro and also on Konkan Railway where we used to establish what is known as reverse clocks. A clock at most all the offices, all the important work sites, which will indicate how many days are left for that particular component of the project to be completed. And each day, automatically, the clock will lose 1 day, so that this reverse clock used to be a constant reminder, a driver for everyone, engineers, contractors, suppliers. They knew that only so many days are left, so the project has got to be completed. And in project management, time is money. Each day you lose in the project, you are losing a lot of money. We calculated that in Delhi Metro, in the phase 1, each day the metro is delayed, DMRC will lose 1.5 crores of rupees. And phase 2, it was about 2.5 crores. Each day is loss. Each day the project is delayed. And the converse also is true. If you are able to complete it earlier, you gain so much of money. So time is so important in any project management that I need not explain to you. You are all students of project management, so this is so important. And this reverse clock is one of the measures we adopted. The other was very quick decision-making process. This is important. Decisions cannot wait because each day you delay decision, it has cost a price. So decision-making process has got to be very fast. And the third dimension to this is delegation of powers. You delegate powers. You have trusted people in charge of the work at pivotal points and delegate things to them. Trust them. They may make mistakes sometimes. I used to tell my assistants that take a decision, go forward. If you make a mistake, doesn't matter. The management will step in and immediately rectify the mistake. But don't lose a day. That is how we used to drive and get things done. This is one important thing. The other is, I said, integrity. When I say integrity, it's not merely honesty or lack of corruption. It used to cover the entire area of activities of the whole organization, all the activities. Transparency is the main factor of this integrity culture. And everybody in the organization, when he enters, he has to declare a set of values he has to adhere to. He has to write and commit himself to these values. And then every year, these have got to be renewed in the organization. And every possibility, every opportunity, the importance of having integrity in the whole organization that are working was being impressed upon all the employees. I think that made a lot of difference in the working of this organization. Most importantly, I found that with this value or the stress on integrity, there was confidence of the two governments on the organization. They trusted the organization. Whatever we said, whatever proposal we made out, which was taken to the government, they just took it without any questioning. That is important. For the higher levels, the higher hierarchy, or particularly the governmental levels, to have trust in the organization is very important. That is possible only because our commitment to the values of integrity. The third thing is professional competence. For an audience of this type, I need not mention what it means, professional competence. Particularly in a project like Delhi Metro, where it's a highly technical, complex project. Many of the technologies adopted in Delhi Metro was not known to this country at all. They have to be imported, and it has to grow roots in this country. So everybody should know his job well. It's a fundamental thing. If you know your job well, naturally you have a lot of confidence in handling your jobs, a lot of self-assurance in the way you conduct yourself. You must know your job well. If you don't know it, you must learn it. And if you can't learn it, you engage somebody who will help you to execute the job properly. This was given a lot of importance in the Delhi Metro particularly. With the result, in the first phase only, we had to hire foreign consultants to help us in executing the project. Second phase onwards, we were entirely on our own. We learned the tricks of the trade during the execution of the first phase itself. Thereafter, today, Delhi Metro is not only doing the third phase, Delhi Metro has carried out the studies and investigations required for all the other metros coming up in the country. In the process, now metros are coming in Chennai, Bangalore, a second line in Calcutta, Jaipur, Kochi, Hyderabad, all these places, metros are already started. 8 cities are having metros now under construction. Delhi Metro, because we were able to absorb this expertise and this knowledge, we were able to have a sort of metro revolution being brought into the country. Now we have also carried out studies for many other metros. All cities in the country with more than 2 million population are going to have metros. And all that Delhi Metro is spearheading the entire efforts to bring metros in the country. This is, as I said, professional competence. You see, if one organization has got this sort of competence, why can't it be replicated by other organizations as well? And the fourth thing which I mentioned was social responsibility. I think this is very crucial for any project management organization. When I say professional competence, it starts with completing the project on time, completing the project without cost overrun. That itself is a social responsibility according to me. Particularly so in regard to government projects. I have been handling only government projects. In government projects, you are spending government money. But where does the government get the money? The money belongs to the people. You and I contribute the money to the government as taxpayers. So that responsibility, that money that you are spending is taxpayers' money. It has to be spent for a right cause, in a right way. That is social responsibility. And that can be achieved. And the best way of ensuring is finish the project on time without any cost overrun, without any time overrun. That is a social responsibility. And another dimension of the social responsibility is carrying out the project, implementing the project, causing least inconvenience to the public. When Delhi Metro was being done, I don't think the city ever knew what was happening even. We were able to carry out the work in such a way that very little disturbance to the city life at all. We used to barricade the work sites so well, light up the area, clean the roads. The extent of social responsibility we assumed was, you can see the way the roads were kept clean where the works were going on. We ensured that vehicles coming out of the work sites, their wheels are washed before the vehicle is allowed on the road, so that the muck and slurry from the work sites are not carried onto the roads. Even so, in the night we used to again clean the roads and wash it. This is social responsibility. There are a number of points I can mention, but I am only touching upon important areas. The other is tree cutting. No, for construction of a metro or a construction of a railway line, large number of trees have to be cut. Particularly in Delhi, to cut a tree was such an impossible task. So many permissions were required from so many angles. And ultimately, the Lieutenant Governor himself had to give the sanction personally for cutting a tree. Usually this process used to take 1 year. On our own, Delhi Metro decided that for every tree that we cut, we will plant 10 trees as compensatory afforestation. This was not dictated by the government. Government never wanted to do it, but we on our own decided this. This is, I call, a social responsibility. I think this is a very important dimension whenever you take up any project for implementation, that the society should benefit out of it and not suffer out of it. This we kept it in our view all the time. And there are very many things which I can mention, how we are able to finish the project on time. The most important thing is, in a project of this type, which are all implemented by contractors, contracts, having the right type of a contractor for the right type of job is so important. And having decided upon a contractor, our attitude was that he's a partner in the project. That client-contractor relationship used to vanish, and we were just partners. If he has got a problem, we should immediately step in and solve the problems of the contractor. If he has got a grievance, we should immediately see that the grievance is addressed. You see, you should remember that in a project of this type, your success depends upon the success of the contractor. If the contractor fails, you fail. If the contractor succeeds, you also succeed. To ensure that the contractor succeeds is very, very important. I think that was probably the main success story in both the Konkan Railway and Delhi Metro. We never allowed contractors to fail. You'll be surprised in Delhi Metro, for example, in phase one, we had, in phase one and phase two put together, I would say, we had more than 2,000 major contracts in this. But there were only 2 cases where the contractors really failed, and DMRC had to step in and bail them out. Otherwise, all contractors worked so successfully. And the main the main reason why the contractors were able to function so well was the method of payment, timely payments, settling their claims on time, and not allowing a contractor comes. See, you must realize that a contractor comes to a project for business. He wants to make money. You should not grouse if a man is making honest money out of it. So this is what we ensure, making the contractors really do very well. And the most important thing for any project management is to have the right team to execute a project. I had the good fortune in both the projects to select my own team and mold them the way I wanted, to instill the type of culture, work culture that was required, and that team was able to deliver it. I think this is choosing the right team and enabling them to discharge their duties properly, I think, is the success of the whole thing. Usually, there is a feeling that project management brings a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. People always complain of stress levels in project management. It can happen. I'm not denying that. But there is a remedy for it also. I think that is a touch of spirituality in project management, a spiritual attitude. I can only recite to you one sloka in Bhagavad Gita, which brings out your attitude in handling a major project. Mukta sango anaham vadi, dhrityutsaha samanyvitaha, siddhyo nirvikara, sakarta satvika uchyade. I don't know how many of you know Sanskrit. How many of you read through this particular sloka? It's a very, very important sloka for any project manager. I don't remember the sloka number. I have a feeling it is chapter 18, sloka 17 or something like that. It only says, if you want to be a virtuous doer, sattvika karta, a virtuous doer, what is required is mukta sango. You should not have too much of attachment to the work that you are doing. Mukta sango. Don't have too much of attachment to that. Then dhrityutsaha samanyvidaha. You must be very efficient, very bold, and very energetic and enthusiastic about the whole project. That is also required. You can still have it without having attachment to the project. Then siddhi siddhyo nirvikaraha. You should not bother about the results that come out of it, whether failures or whether successes. You should have the same attitude in regard to the project. If you are able to take that, assume that status of mind and execute the project, I think you can never fail. I think this is a beautiful message from Bhagavad Gita for any project management expert, that I think I have tried to practice this not only in these 2 projects, my earlier assignments as well on the railways. I'm very happy PMI Chennai chapter has given me this opportunity to place before you some of the ideas or some of the lessons that I've learned in handling these 2 projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your motivating words. Punctuality and cleanliness, as they say in our culture, come next only to godliness. Sir has kindly consented to answer a few questions please raise your hands. A volunteer would bring you a mic, and then you can ask your question. Thank you.
Sir, good morning. My name is Ravi. I am from ONGC. I'll be able to relate to the experiences of yours because I'm also working in a public sector. Sir, you made a point telling that the success of the project depends on the right selection of the contractors. In fact, public sectors are suffering because of this particular issue, because we are supposed to select the least L1 contractor. Now the systems have come to that extent of even selecting a consultant and a training also through L1 procedure. So what is your secret of selecting the right type of contractor with these procedures?
You see, a public sector undertaking has got a lot of autonomy and freedom, really to. Unfortunately, our chief executives or the managers don't exercise this freedom that they have. There is nowhere it has been laid down that you should go by the L1. If you have got a disease and if you go to a doctor, you don't go to a L1 doctor. There is no such rule at all. If he is a consultant, who is the best consultant, you can check up and go for the right consultant for the job. He will be able to give you the type of advice which will help you to save a lot of time and cost later on in the job. So choosing the right contractor is not at all a problem. I never faced it. Throughout my 58 years of professional life, I never faced this problem. Only thing is, you may have to do what is known as either pre-qualification or shortlisting the contractors. Don't allow anyone on the street to come and take up a work. You pre-qualify or have a shortlist and choose the right people on L1 basis at that stage, because you have to also maintain the transparency. Yes.
Hello. Good morning, sir. This is, sir, on the middle. This is Rangarajan from Scope International.
From where?
Sir, here. So I have to stand up, I believe. I have to stand up on the bench
Yeah.
for you to see me. Here.
Yeah.
Sir, you talked about your experience of managing people below you. One of the very key stakeholder for you is managing the Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Railways. How did you get through all your approvals ahead for you to execute your Delhi Metro or your Konkan Railways well ahead of time?
You see, the proposals are well packaged, thought of correctly, priced properly. It's not difficult to get the approval of the governments. It's not at all difficult. I never faced this problem at all. And most of these projects are government-sponsored projects. The government is also interested in seeing that the project gets executed very fast. So that is not really a problem to get the approvals from the higher authorities. You have to process it properly, and you have to pursue it also. Now, as I mentioned, Dr. Ramachandran is here. I was on one side, he's on the other side of the government. I don't think we had any difficulty to get any proposal cleared by him. It has to be properly packaged. It has to be in a convincing way. And also, it depends upon your own sincerity and integrity. That also, the way it is processed and placed. Eh?
So you just talked about how the clearances, the getting clearances for you was a lot easier since it was a novel project. Right now, I am working on India's first PPP metro project for Hyderabad Metro Rail.
Which one?
Hyderabad Metro Rail.
Ah.
So we are program managers for the Hyderabad Metro Rail, and we are facing the same kind of issues regarding ROW. So the thing is that the risks for the project, the time constraints, are coming from the ROWs, and that is delaying the projects. So what do we do in case of PPP projects where the clearances don't come as easily as they would for, let's say, DMRC, which is a government-based organization?
You see, the clearances are generally required from the government or environmental clearance and things like that. The metro projects don't require any environmental clearance. Probably you are aware of it. It doesn't require any environmental clearance. And the clearances are from the governments. Now, if your government has set certain rules and norms, if you are following these rules, norms, and parameters, there is no difficulty to get the approval at all. You have to follow those things. If you want to do something away from the parameters already laid down for the project, then there is difficulty. Now, in regard to Hyderabad project, I don't think you have come to the stage of getting the clearances from the Railway Ministry at all. You have not even started the work. The clearances are really required before the project is commissioned.
Work started in July, so we've already done around.
You don't, for doing your work, you don't require the railways clearance at all, according to me. You require only the land. Land is, in a metro project, 90% of the land is readily available. It is along the street only. You could have.
The complexity in Hyderabad is getting the utilities transferred,
Eh?
the underground utilities and the sensitive structures. Because what we sensitive in the sense, the communal structures like temples and mosques which are on the road, and they're quite a large number of which have to go through the whole city.
But in a project like that, you start not at difficult points. You start where the land is readily available, but there are no problems. Start on that, which has not been done. I was in Hyderabad 2 times last week. I was quite disappointed to see the progress on the project. Quite disappointed. Lots of areas work could have been started, not started at all. You want to go and start at a place where there's a problem. No. Hyderabad was a very easy cake, according to me, but somehow.
Sir, I have something to say. Sir, you have told that you had a team and bold decisions were taken, and I am confident that since it was a very big project, I mean, there are so many bold decisions that were to be taken. And of course, since being in a government organization, as you have told, there are so many wajibaps for that particular partner. And of course, I am confident that there are so many situations where, some bold decisions and for a practice, they may need a very thin band. Sir, in such situations, as a CEO, as the chief executive of the project, what was your role and how you mitigated those problems and protected your persons under you who have taken bold decisions?
That was a very easy thing, really speaking. When I say bold decisions, doesn't mean reckless or wrong decisions. You should take the right decisions, not in a reckless fashion. You examine all the implications of the decision and take it and then go forward. Every decision may not be very right. I can tell you that this is what I used to tell my own directors or my own team heads. You take a decision, go ahead. If you make a mistake, don't worry at all. The management will step in and rectify that mistake. If that sort of a confidence is given, everybody will take decisions fast and will invariably take the right decision as well, according to me. I don't think we had any difficulty for taking the decisions. Sometimes decision has to be taken by yourself. The problem arises when you don't want to take the decision, you want to pass the buck to somebody else. Then only this problem arises. In public sector undertaking, if you really see, all the decisions are with them. Most of the 90% decisions the chief executive can take. Probably 10% decision may have to go to the boardroom. That's all. And in the boardroom, it depends upon your sincerity, your integrity, the way you conduct yourself, you can get things done. I don't think I lost any battle in the boardroom throughout I had number of boards I have seen. I've been chief executives in 3 different public undertakings. Executive, Cochin Shipyard, I was CMD, Konkan Railway, I was CMD, and Delhi Metro, I was MD. I never had any real major problem in the boardroom at all.
Good morning, sir. My name is Sridhar. I am from Target Corporation, Bangalore. My question is like today's government projects, basically there is a lot of corruption involved in government projects like irrigation, railways, or assigning contracts like 3G, coal, and other stuff. So is there any corruption involvement in your project from politicians or government officials? And how you deal with this, sir? And we need your inputs in this, because we people as a youth, we are going forward to take government projects in future. We need these inputs to help us better way.
I must confess, I had the advantage of building my own team, both on Kangan Railway as well as Delhi Metro. And when building the team, I picked up the right type of people whose integrity was beyond doubt. People whom had a good track record, whom I could really trust. If you don't have trust in your person, you can't give decisions also. And you can't be checking everything that he does. So you must have the loyalty of the people whom you take. So these two organizations I built up myself. And this was the one thing which we used to emphasize: integrity, honesty in all transactions, and transparency in the transactions. So I don't think there was any scandal at all, either in Konkan Railway or in Delhi Metro, in regard to any such thing happening. You heard about the Commonwealth Games, and so many CBI cases and so many allegations against so many departments had come up. But Delhi Metro also did its part in the Commonwealth Games. There was not even a single scandal in Delhi Metro regarding any corruption.
Hello, sir. Good morning. This is Nagendra from TCS Hyderabad. We have heard good things about all Delhi Metro. All said and done, I want to hear something about the quality. We all know, as any other citizen of India, what the motto of a contractor would be, like profit motto. So how did you control, or how did you make sure that, okay, it's running fine now, like it will be there, and there won't be further quality issues down the line, and we are not far behind from the developed countries' projects across the world, like say, so take an example of Japan or maybe US. So there are many projects going on. How did you make sure we are not far behind them?
You are right in a way that in this country, this quality culture has not come up. The contractors don't do things on their own, except very few. I don't classify every contractor in that fashion. There are good contractors also in this country who want to do a good job themselves. But then, in the organization also, there should be one or two layers for quality auditing. In both these organizations, we had really 3 layers of quality auditing. One was the DMRC's own engineers who used to supervise and ensure quality. Then there were consultants employed for this purpose. They also used to check up and see ensure the quality. And a third, a quality assurance team, independent of the project managers, independent of the project team on site. We used to have the quality assurance team going around and reporting directly to the top management what was happening. I think
It was conceived probably 2 decades back. And the steel price, and Metro is all about steel. Steel price have gone threefold probably. All our project managers in this room, and they all baseline their project plan. And this is always a question: how often do you change your baselines? So when we talk about cost baseline, had there been corrections, whether because of escalations of steel price? That's one question. And there was justification, of course, and that was probably more money was given if there was deviation against baselines. And second question is, how have we performed on EHS issues, environmental, health and safety, incident-free execution of project Delhi Metro? Because I could not get the data as far as EHS data is concerned on this project. Thank you much.
You see, in all these contracts, there is what is known as an escalation clause, which there are factors factored in where increase in the cost of fuel, increase in the cost of labor, increase in the cost of material. It is already, there is an escalation clause, which the contractor is quite aware when he quotes for the work. Now, even so, there may be situations where there are exorbitant increase in the cost of steel, and there was a problem. We faced the same problem in Delhi Metro as well, that the steel prices went up very high. And the escalation clause provided was not able to compensate the contractor for that. We did not hesitate to renegotiate this escalation clause with the contractors. But the only thing is, when you do this, it should be across the table, not for one particular contractor. You don't favor one particular contractor. It is across the table, and you do it in consultation with similar sister department like Central PWD, Railways, and do a thing which is acceptable to everybody. This can be renegotiated. There is nothing wrong in that. It can be done. And regarding environment, health, and safety, if you see the tender documents of Delhi Metro, there is one big volume itself on this environment, health, and safety, which the contractor has to comply with. And we employ independent monitors to see that these are complied with. Independent monitors that DMRC employ for this purpose. It's not difficult.
Thank you, sir. That was the last question for the day. If we all learn one lesson from this session, let it be punctuality. Sir has a flight to catch after that. So thank you very much for sharing your experiences. I just received the news that Sir has just won the Lifetime Achievement Award from Forbes. It was announced yesterday evening. I now invite Mr. Brajesh, ex-president of the Kerala chapter, mentor to PMI Kerala chapter, to hand over a small memento to Dr. Sridharan. So we are also doing something to save the environment, a small bit, but we have planted 30 trees on your behalf. Thank you, sir.